this right from the start. We had prepared to start this show with a fun recap of everything that we've missed in the past 3 months, from the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary to this fucking arsehole, to Kanye denying that he enjoys the presence of fingers in his butt. It's been a busy 3 months we've missed. But then, last night, that all pretty much went out the window when this happened.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, I have some very sad news, some breaking news just into us here at CNN. United States Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia has died.
Wow. Well, first, that is a rare case of CNN's dramatic breaking news banner actually being justified. Because normally it's reserved for informing us that a man named Wolf is going into a tunnel. Or that a major news event occurred over a century ago. And look, let's be honest, there are a lot of strong feelings surrounding Antonin Scalia, but whatever you think of him, his death is the end of an era on the Supreme Court. He was a hugely significant justice, and for the purposes of our Supreme Court, he was an absolutely adorable bulldog. So obviously, this is a very sad day for his family and his friends, and it's also a tough day for us here at the show, partly because I now have to murder that dog. Hey, you knew the deal, Pickles. You signed the contract. The fact is, there is now a huge vacancy on the Supreme Court that needs to be filled. Or, if you listen to the Republicans in the past 24 hours, not.
In an unprecedented move, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell immediately released a statement saying this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president.
We're not going to give up the U.S. Supreme Court for a generation by allowing Barack Obama to make one more liberal appointee.
I think it's up to Mitch McConnell and everybody else to stop it. It's called delay, delay, delay.
Well, that does not bode well, because Mitch McConnell is actually pretty good at delaying things for people, whether it's legislation, court appointments, or orgasms. Believe me, if you ever need to delay, just picture that face, and I guarantee you nothing will happen, possibly for the rest of your life. Now, interestingly, a strange unwritten rule of the Senate is being cited to justify this behaviour.
There is a rule in the Senate. It's an informal rule called the Thurmond Rule. The rule that Strom Thurmond put forward was no president in the last 6 months of their presidency should be able to appoint a judge that has a lifetime appointment.
Yes, the Strom Thurmond Rule. Now, I'm not surprised that there is one. It's just, I thought it would always be about the amount of hush money required to keep your secret family a secret, or how racist an old person is allowed to be before their age is no longer an excuse. But if Mitch McConnell does want to evoke this rule, he will need to be careful, because during the George W. Bush years, when Democrats were trying to pull this Thurmond Rule bullshit to prevent lower court appointments, he was pretty categorical about it.
Our Democratic colleagues continually talk about the so-called Thurmond Rule, under which the Senate supposedly stops confirming judges in a presidential election year. This seeming obsession with this rule that doesn't exist is just an excuse for our colleagues to run out the clock on qualified nominees who are waiting to fill badly needed vacancies.
Yes, it seems the Thurmond Rule is a bit like God. When things are going your way, you don't bring it up a lot. But as soon as you're in trouble, it is all that you talk about. And it's also worth noting that the Thurmond Rule generally applies to the last 6 months of a president's term. So even if it does apply, it wouldn't come into effect until July 20th. Although, what more fitting tribute to the life and work of Antonin Scalia than the Senate really trying to stretch the definition of late term? And also, it's weird. It's weird to see a debate over an unwritten rule when you consider what Antonin Scalia stood for.
You talk about someone who defended consistently the original meaning of the Constitution, who understood that the Constitution was not there to be interpreted based on the fads of the moment, but that it was there to be interpreted according to its original meaning.
He's right. Scalia loved the letter of the law. So let's look at the letter that applies here, shall we? Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution says the President shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint judges of the Supreme Court. That's the president. This president. There is nothing in the Constitution about you getting to delay him for a year because of some bullshit tradition. So to Senate Republicans, I say this. If you really loved Antonin Scalia, you wouldn't honour his memory by desecrating the thing he loved the most. Think of Scalia like a Brita filter or a child's hamster. Why don't you honour his entire reason for being by swiftly and efficiently replacing him? Now, I am sure that we'll be covering a lot of this Supreme Court fight in the future, but for now, let's turn to another major American institution, Chipotle. America's preferred over-the-counter laxative. It has been a rough few months for the, sure, let's go ahead and call it Mexican fast food chain. Since last July, they've experienced 6 food safety failures involving norovirus, salmonella and E. coli. And as of December, they face a federal criminal investigation as well. So on Monday, they took drastic action.
Chipotle temporarily closed all 2,000 of its stores for 4 hours today to hold a scheduled company-wide employee meeting on the topic of food safety.
Closed stores? Well, that is bad news for Chipotle, but on the bright side, it's the best day Subway has had since Jared went to prison. but I will say, it may take more than a few hours to fix some of the systemic problems Chipotle seems to have with its restaurants, especially when you consider reports like this one from a news station in Florida.
In January, inspectors walked into Chipotle on Cortez Road West in Bradenton and saw a live wild bird flying around the restaurant, with open food at the front line exposed to possible contamination. According to the inspection report, the manager says he was aware of that wild bird and it's a regular nuisance.
Oh, yeah, I know that bird. He bought a soda like a year ago and he just keeps filling it up. That bird's a dick. You're a dick, Keith. You're a dick. But I'm absolutely sure the manager of that bird-infested Chipotle made sure that it could never, ever happen again.
Animal control was called to remove the bird, but when inspectors returned the next day, live bird still there.
What? Live bird still there is the second lowest grade you can actually get from a health inspection. The lowest one, of course, being a Fieri. But to go by customers' reactions to Chipotle store closings on Monday, they may not have too much to worry about.
I'm disappointed. I mean, I understand they need to take, safety precautions, but I love Chipotle.
Will it deter you from eating at Chipotle?
No, it won't. No.
Love it, those burrito bowls so much?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so good. It is just so tasty. So it's my dirty little secret. I love Chipotle.
So hold on. They know it's bad, and they want it even more. Chipotle is now officially America's emotionally abusive boyfriend. It seems Chipotle have us in the palm of their hands, and judging from their latest commercial... Welcome to Last Week Tonight! I'm John Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us. Just time for a quick recap of the week, and we begin tonight in South Carolina, home of ancestors that you may not want to look up on Ancestry.com. South Carolina held their Republican primary last night, and Donald Trump won big, which was all the more impressive considering what had happened earlier in the week.
Donald Trump is now in a very nasty feud with the Pope.
Here's what Francis had to say. I'm quoting here. A person who thinks only about building walls wherever they may be and not of building bridges is not Christian.
Yes, this week saw a battle between an infallible force and an illogical object. And it was amazing. The most inclusive Pope in recent history questioned Trump's faith, which I guess means the Pope feels Donald Trump is not my Christian. Hashtag not my Christian. And yet Trump still won. He still won. Although, perhaps the even bigger news last night was what South Carolina did to Jeb Bush. The side of plain white rice that nobody ordered. Jeb Bush dropped out last night after finishing 4th, despite really pulling out all the stops in South Carolina this week.
Barbara Bush appearing with son Jeb Bush on the campaign trail. Is she the closer?
No. She could not be the closer. You bring on the closer when you have a lead. When your campaign is where Jeb Bush's was, you don't need a closer, you need a fucking coroner. And, look, I can't believe I'm saying this, but But I kind of feel bad for Jeb Bush, because not only did he bring his mom along to help him campaign, just wait until you hear what she said about him.
What's left for me to say is that Jeb has been a great son, great father, great husband, married well, and is one of my 4 favorite sons.
Oh, no! Look, I know she's joking, but that is literally what you say about your 4th favourite son. She actually went on to call him steady, honest, modest and kind. And his campaign was over right then and there. Because you know you've lost when your own mother is selling you to America like an unappealing blind date. He's steady, he's modest, he has a pet mouse. Honestly, he hasn't been with a woman in a long time and he really needs this. Please. So let